have to do is stamp our image, our little topiary tree, and I'm going to be using my Stamparatus to do that today. So I've actually placed my deluxe foam mat on top because I'm using photopolymer stamps, and I've just got a piece of grid paper just to keep everything clean. So I'm going to bring in my background and just lay it in my Stamparatus and pop my magnets in place. Remember, we're going to be stamping here on the right hand side. And so first thing I need to do is bring in my brickwork so I can get an idea of where I'm going to be placing my image. So I can just lay that there. And then I'm going to bring in my little sample image that I stamped earlier. And you can just play around with this now and decide where you would like it. And so I think I would like it here. So I can remove that now. And the first thing I'm going to stamp is the little urn. Now we're going to be stamping that in another piece of cardstock just to give it some dimension, but we're still going to put this foundational layer down, and all I do is I lay my stamp over the top of my stamped image so I know it's going to be in the right spot. Like that. Like that. And then I'm going to bring over the lid and lift it up, and I can remove my image now. Now I'm going to bring in my crumb cake, which is this one, yes. And I'm going to ink up my urn. I'm going to bring it across and stamp that in place. Like that. Now the next image, I'll just wipe this off a little bit. I'm going to do other stems. I'll just move that off to the side. And I'll grab my stems and line them up so they're about in the center. Like that. Bring the lid over, and I'm going to be using Early Espresso for this. Just ink it up. And now I have my stems in place. And now I'm going to grab my leaves and pop those in place as well. So I think about there. About there. Up. And this will be Mossy Meadow, doing our leaves in Mossy Meadow. Like that. Now the great thing about the Stamparatus is if you don't get a clear enough image, you can come back and do it again. So I want those leaves a little bit darker, so I'm going to do another stamping. There we go. So that's nice and dark now. And now it's time to ink up our bricks. So to begin with, we're going to be using our crumb cake ink, and we're going to just pop some of that onto an acrylic block like that. And again, we're going to take our large aqua painter and we're going to pick up some of this ink, and we're just going to be very messy and apply this all over our bricks. And it's kind of good if you do it unevenly, so you know, put a bit of dark spots here and leave it a bit light in other places, because bricks look better when they're kind of, you know, random in color. So, and just squeeze the water while you're doing this. The great thing about the gesso too is it gives you this sort of really lovely rough texture, which reminds me of bricks. So you get the texture, but you also get the ability to use your inks like you would watercolor. So that color isn't being grabbed by the cardstock because it has the layer of gesso on it, which means we can come in and move it around. See how I can just move this ink and keep moving it, which if we were just using cardstock, that would have soaked in and we wouldn't have the ability to do that. So just continue on and do all your pieces that you have cut out and dry them off. Once you've finished colouring in your background colour and you've dried it off with your heat tool, to add a little bit more variation, I'm just going to take a clean baby wipe and I'm just going to pick certain places, and with the baby wipe I'm just going to remove some ink here and there. And this will add more variation to our brickwork. Just a little bit. And we're able to do this again because we have applied gesso. You would not be able to do this on regular cardstock. Okay, now I'm just going to dry this again. Right, now you'll need your cherry cobbler ink next and a finger dauber. And what we're going to do is just, actually, again, pull the lid out because I don't want too much ink on my dauber. Take the excess off in your lid. And we're just going to swipe this ink in different spots, but use your finger to blend that out. So we use the finger dauber to apply the ink, but I'm using my finger to blend it into the background. And once again, this is because we have gesso on the surface. It allows us great flexibility with our ink. We can move it around as much as we like. And you can see that's giving a really nice variation to our brickwork also. So I finished adding some of my cherry cobbler just to add a bit more colour to my brickwork, and now I want to add a little bit more texture using splatters, and we're going to do this the same way we did in the background, but this time I'm going to be using my early espresso ink, and we're going to be doing exactly the same thing, just stamping a little bit onto an acrylic block and taking our large aqua painter and filling that up with some ink. That, and again I'm taking my trusty paintbrush here just to give it a tap all over our brickwork like that. And now we have some really nice colour going on in our bricks, and now they're really interesting. So now what we've got to do is the mortar. To start colouring our mortar, the first thing we want to do is actually sponge around the outer edge of all our brickwork. Now I've gone ahead and done some of that off camera, but I just use a little sponge for this, and the reason I use this is it's easier to get into these little nooks and crannies around your bricks when you have a piece of sponge like that, and you just go all the way around all your bricks like that, just adding a darker edge where the mortar would have been around the outside of the bricks. So I've actually gone ahead and I've done that to all of my pieces. And so once you've done that, the next step you're going to need to do all the brick joints is to take a Stampin' Up marker in Early Espresso, and we're going to be using the brush tip on this. And all we're going to do is we're going to draw some of this in between the bricks where you can see the joins like that. And then you're going to take your finger and you're going to smudge it. And that blends it in, but it just creates a darker mortar join, and it defines your bricks as well. Like that. Just add it as you think it needs to, and you can see when you do this step it actually makes the bricks look a little bit three-dimensional. And where there's not a clear join, you can make one up where you think there should be one. Like that. And you just keep doing that with all the joins. Just drawing and smudging with your finger and blending it in, and you can see the difference that makes. Well, I've finished my brickwork now, and as you can see, just adding that colour in the mortar, the early espresso, really makes the brickwork stand out and gives it some dimension. But we're going to give it even more dimension on our background. So off camera, I've actually sponged around the edge of my background. I've used some crumb cake first and sponged lightly around the edge, and then I've taken some of the early espresso and I've come right just on the edges with that, just to add a little bit of dimension. Now, to make these bricks stand out even more, what we do is we're going to lay them in place over our background like that, lining up these bricks at the right hand side here like that. And we're going to take our pencil and we're actually going to trace all the way around these bricks, all the way around. I've already actually done that, but because it's easy enough to do, you just trace all the way around. Put all your other bricks in place also, trace around those. I have one little one up here too, and you just trace around the edge, and that gives us an outline. So to add a little bit of shadow now to make this stand out, we're going to take just an ordinary cotton tip, and we're going to take our early espresso ink, and we're just going to roll the cotton tip around in that ink. And we want to actually start underneath the brickwork. We don't want to start out in the part we're going to see. We're going to start under the brickwork and gradually feather our way out so it's nice and soft. So I'm going to start here inside under the brickwork. See how dark that comes out when you first put it down? But as you work it, you're going to bring it out over that pencil line. Bring it up so you can see. So see how I'm just extending that soft edge past the pencil line, and all this edge, this dark part here, will be hidden underneath the brick. And when you need more ink, you just dab it in. But again, remember to start right back here underneath where your bricks are so you don't see that dark part. And bring it so it just goes past. You just want it to extend over that pencil line. Like that. And then what happens when we come to actually come to attach our bricks in place, just line them up, you can see that small area I've done there, that small area here that I've done, how that really makes that stand out, that bit of shadow area. It's optional, you don't have to do this, but I kind of like it because it really does make it almost look like those bricks are popping out. So you do that all the way around all your bricks. The other place I like to do this is underneath the urn, because we're going to be adding another piece of cardstock on top. So again, I'm going to start inside the urn, and I'm just going to come outside that stamped line, just to add a little bit of shadow around the outside of the urn also, and that will add dimension to it too. And you just continue doing that around your bricks and all the way around the urn.